All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're super excited to host this webinar tonight. Thanks for being here. I'm Linda Graham with the City of Milpitas. I run our water conservation program. And we also have Alexandra Shaw from the City of Sunnyvale. So just a couple information. I know you guys are all pretty Zoom experts, but just a couple small things is that you are all muted by default. Frank will be pausing periodically for questions. The best way to ask a question is to put it into the Q&A. You can also at the end of the presentation raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute you. Please do not use the chat for questions because it's easier for us to track it in the Q&A. And this webinar will be recorded and made available. And it will be made on the Bosca website, and I can also type that into the chat as well, since I do see we have a question about that. So a little bit information about Bosca. Bosca represents 26 agencies that include cities, water districts, water company, and university, all that purchase water from San Francisco. Bosca member agencies provide water to 1.8 million people in over 40,000 businesses in Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. And Bosca has a goal of a high quality supply of water at a fair price. Outdoor water use represents the single largest untapped opportunity for water conservation in the Bosca service area. Through the use of water efficient plants, drip irrigation, other smart irrigation techniques, and other ways to really help reduce our outdoor watering can really help us in the times of drought and wet years as well, to just help us overall conserve water. So a little bit information of Bosca rebates that are provided. Please note to go to the Bosca webpage or to your own retailer's website to see which programs you are eligible for. But Bosca does offer a lawn be gone rebate program. This is rebates of $1 to $4 per square foot of lawn or turf that is replaced with low water using plants. Bosca also offers a rain barrel rebate up to $200. If you live in the city of Milpitas, we work with Valley Water for our water conservation rebates. So we have the landscape rebate program, which offers $3 per square foot of lawn replaced with drought tolerant plants. We also work with Valley Water on irrigation equipment upgrades, including upgrading to drip irrigation that you'll hear about today. And we also have rainwater capture rebates of rain barrels and cisterns. Please note that for Milpitas residents, we are working with Valley Water on increasing our rebate amounts. So stay tuned for that. Alex, I'll let you take it for Sunnyvale.
Thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alexandra Shaw and I work with the City of Sunnyvale in the Environmental Services Department. Today, I'd like to tell you about the rebates we offer for replacing lawns and plants that require a lot of water with drought-tolerant plants or permeable hardscape. Doing this can earn you up to $1 per square foot and $2 per square foot if you are a resident of Sunnyvale. We also offer rebates for properties that connect a clothes washer to a gray water irrigation system for up to $200. For more information on these plans and rebates, please visit sunnyvale.ca.gov/savewater. The City of Sunnyvale also offers compost and mulch to Sunnyvale, Mountain View, and Palo Alto residents at our SMART station. The address is 301 Carl Road, Sunnyvale, and this is available Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Bring your own mask, your own shovel, and container. And these links I will put in the chat afterwards. Next slide, please. A new addition to Bosca's program is the Smart Controller program, which provides instant rebates and heavily discounted pricing on the Ratio 3 irrigation controller. This controller can be operated from your smartphone, and it normally retails for $280, but through this program, you can get it for $100 plus tax. Pretty cool. You can also look out for our new rain garden rebate program where you can receive an additional $300 rebate for creating a rain garden. Yeah, so if you enjoyed tonight's programs, we invite you to join some of our additional upcoming webinar classes. You can find that at bayareaconservation.org. If you're looking for additional resources on water efficient landscaping, please visit bayareagardening.org, WaterWise gardening website. This site supports residents in water efficient landscape renovations and management. Resources include gallery of gardens with plants identified, plant selection tool, and a watering calculator. And now, without further ado, we introduce our instructor, Frank Niccoli. Frank, take it away.
Okay, all righty. So let's talk about drip. So the first thing about drip is how many times do you want to install a drip system? Once? Yes, that's the right answer. Once. Once. So tonight is going to be about how to install that drip system once. It doesn't do any good in terms of sustainability if you install the drip system a couple of times because you're wasting resources. And so tonight we're going to talk about how you will be able to install that system one time. So I put my drip system in 1996, 97, same system. What year is this? I don't know, something like 2021. It's still in, same valves, same hose, same everything. I was a landscape contractor. One of the things that contractors hate is callbacks. We want to get whatever we're doing in the ground. We want to do it one time. We want to get paid, and we want to move to the next job. So the first tip that I'm going to give you is that you need to stay away from the big box stores. Don't buy the stuff at big box. And why is that, Frank? Well, because it's not commercial grade. The contractors are not buying their stuff at big box. They're buying that stuff at a store that is selling commercial grade equipment like Site One. And they don't pay me for doing this. I don't get a kickback from Site One. I happen to like Site One, and I like Site One for a couple of reasons. First of all, they are women friendly. And that might sound weird in this day and age. But in many of these irrigation stores that are catering to contractors, if you're a woman and you walk in there, some of them will ignore you. Site One does not do that. They are lady friendly. They will help you. And so I like to support them for that reason. If you're a homeowner and you go in at the wrong time, they will ignore you. So when I was a contractor, I was giving these people about $15,000 to $20,000 a month. And so I walk in, I get the coffee, I get the donuts, they ignore you. You're there at the wrong time. You want to go into these stores when the contractors are not around. 7 o'clock in the morning, don't go. It's full of contractors. They're trying to get stuff out the door. They've got jobs to do. About 9:30, go. Contractors are gone. 11:30, contractors are back. These places sometimes give us lunch because they want us to come in and buy stuff, hot dogs, barbecue, whatever. Remember, $15,000 to $20,000 a month is what I was paying these guys to get a hot dog. Free. Great. So around 1:30, another good time to go. 4 o'clock, don't go. Contractors are still there. They're getting stuff for tomorrow. So you want to get this stuff that is commercial grade. The stuff at the big box stores is garbage. It's there to get repeat business. Contractors do not buy their materials there. They're clueless in terms of helping you. You want to get this system in, and you want to get it in with some knowledge. And these companies can help you if you get there at the right time and they're not busy. Okay. So that's the first thing. Or the second thing, or it might be the third thing at this point. I don't know. I lost track. So when we talk about a drip system, one of the things that we need to understand is how much water do I actually have coming into my house? Where did that go? Oh, there it is. And so I'm going to tell you a way to measure that water. You don't have to buy a fancy bucket like this one.
Frank,
This
we don't
one-
see your screen.
Oh, sorry. What is going on here? Oh, there we go. There we go. See my screen now? Oops.
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, outstanding. All right, so you don't have to buy a fancy bucket. So back to what I was talking about earlier, site one. This is, why is my screen bouncing? So this is site one. They're all over the Bay Area. They have stores all over the place. There's one in San Carlos, outstanding store in San Carlos, just in case you guys missed my little lecture on site one. Anyway, how much water do we have coming into the house? You need to know that first. You don't have to buy a fancy bucket like this. This is nice. It's all marked 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallon, 4 gallon is here, and the top ring is 5 gallon. You don't have to do that. You can get a tape measure, and you measure from the bottom of the bucket up to the top of the bucket. And these buckets are about 14 inches, right around 14 and some change. And so you divide that by 5 and make a mark on the bucket at 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallon, 4 gallon. Everybody follow me so far? Real simple stuff. How many gallons are in a 5 gallon bucket? 5. Some people I always, well, Frank, how many gallons are in a 5 gallon bucket? There's 5. Okay, 5 gallons. So that's why you're marking this bucket with 4 marks on it, with the top being the 5th gallon. And then you walk up to your hose and you turn the water on, stick the bucket on under the hose bib after you turn it on. And then you count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 13, 1,000, 14, 1,000, 15, 1,000, pull the bucket away, turn the water off. So you measured how much water is going into this bucket in 15 seconds. There are 4 15-second increments in a minute. You look at the amount of water that is in your bucket in this 15-second increment. And let's just say, for the sake of brevity, that you have 2 gallons in this bucket. That means you're getting 8 gallons per minute into your home. That's a number you want to write down and remember, because we're going to use that in just a minute. So 8 gallons per minute. We don't care about pressure. We're going to drop the pressure, because most homes have anywhere from 60 to 120 PSI coming into the home. And that's too much for a drip system. It'll blow the hoses apart. So we drop it. We drop it down to 25, 30, or 40 PSI. And we do that with a pressure reducer. And I have one right here. This is a pressure reducer right here. This is the one you do not want to buy. This is what big box sells you. This is a commercial grade. You see the difference in size. This will clog. It cannot handle the amount of water that it's going through this system for a drip. Will not do it. You want big. You want a lot of real estate here. What's the cost? This is about 10 bucks more than this. What's the longevity? Well, mine has been in since 91, somewhere around there. I've never had to change it. This one will last you maybe 2 years. And this pressure reducer clogs. It is not commercial grade. It's garbage. This is what you want. This has a filter in it. It has a 120 micron mesh filter in it. Our water coming from Hetch Hetchy is really clean water to drink, but it's dirty for a drip system. So we want to collect that particulate matter and clean these filters. When do I clean the filters? At the solstice, March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, and December 21st. So we're coming up on the winter solstice, about another month. I'll be out there cleaning my drip filters. I have about 6 drip systems at my house. And they work very well. They're commercial grade. Remember that. Don't buy a big box. So these filters are there to pick up the particulate matter that's in the water. The particulate matter includes tiny pieces of rust, tiny pieces of soil that get past the filters that Hetch Hetchy uses. So that water coming from Hetch Hetchy takes about 8 days from Hetch Hetchy to come down into the Bay Area, and it does pick up a lot of particulate matter. I remember when my grandfather used to visit me, one of the first things that I was born in Colorado and we moved out here when I was 9. I remember my grandfather coming into the house and he would pour himself a glass of water. And he was always concerned about water. I don't know why, just something about him. And he liked the water in San Francisco. If he didn't like the water, he'd stay only a couple of days. If he liked the water, he'd stay a week or so. So he liked the water here, so he would stay about a week or so. We have good water here. Some of the best water in the world is coming from Hetch Hetchy, by the way. So we filter it. We also have a pressure reducer. This is a 25 PSI pressure reducer. It drops the pressure down to 25 PSI. On a homeowner system, this is perfect. You can go to 30 if you want. That still works. 40 is a bit much, but it'll still work. The issue is that we don't want the pressure to be too high because it'll blow the hoses apart. We're going to be using compression fitting, compression fittings. Yeah, I should say that right up front. Compression fittings. And too much pressure will blow those hoses apart. They'll work fine at 25, 30 PSI. 40, getting a little dicey. So you want these things to be at that. This is a kit, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. You can buy this whole piece, this whole unit as a kit. It has an arrow on it. It tells you which way the water is going. You want to follow that arrow. So in other words, water is going that way. If you reverse this, you have an expensive coupling because it ain't going to work. This filter will not work. This pressure reducer will not work. So you want to make sure that when you buy these, you follow the arrow, okay? So we've talked about the pressure reducer and the filter system. The next thing I want to talk about is the valve. This valve is a very good valve. this happens to be rainbirds. I like rainbird valves. I like hunter valves. I'm going to show you some hunter valves in just a minute. Again, this has an arrow on it. The arrow says the water goes that way. Do not cheap out on a valve. We are going to be dealing with gallons per hour. Remember when we did the bucket test and we tested to see how many gallons per minute we have coming into the house? That's a good number. We're going to use that in just a minute. When we're dealing with drip systems work in gallons per hour. The issue with a cheap valve is not so much the turn on part, it's the turn off part. You need a minimum amount of flow through these valves to get them to shut off. If you have a cheapy valve and it sticks on, it usually sticks on when you're taking that cruise to the Caribbean for a month. And your water will start to stick on the minute you go out the door and stay on for a month. So you want to make sure that you get a good valve that has the right characteristics for shutting off. All valves will turn on, but you need a certain amount of flow to shut them off. And I will show you what I mean. So this is Hunter's irrigation site. Hunter Irrigation makes some of the best irrigation in the world, including their controllers. I don't buy any other controller except Hunter. They make the best. Their algorithms on their smart controllers are the best. Filter and filter regulators. This is the one I was showing you earlier. You can get a drip control zone kit with the valve and everything. It's a kit. Look at the range. 0.5 to 80 gallons per minute. This thing will shut off when it is supposed to. That's what you want. It's pre-assembled, so you don't have to worry about it. It's all set up for you. Okay. This is their drip control zone kits. Very well done. Rainbird has one. Rainbird makes a good product also. You will not find these at big box. These are commercial grade systems. Yes, you will pay a little more, but don't you want to just do it one time? I'm really serious about that. I've looked at drip systems that people get at the big box store, and they really are garbage. They're just garbage. People have nothing but problems with them. And of course, what is the thing that they say? Drip systems don't work. Yeah, they do work. You just need to get the right stuff in the ground. So some of the other products that they have that is used for drip systems is this. This is their take on the drip system. So in other words, there is a drip emitter in here. It's right here, as a matter of fact. And they have this cloth that's around it. This cloth is made from recycled plastic, and it'll last 25 years. Commercial grade again. And what happens is water comes out of that emitter, it fills this cloth up with water, and your plant can get this water. Am I saying this is the best one to use? I'm not saying that, but this is a real good one. I'm going to show you a better one in a minute that I like to use, but I like the Hunter one. If you want to get Hunter, that's outstanding. I highly recommend it. So when we look at drip system, everybody thinks that it looks like this with a bug emitter. These are called bug emitters, by the way, in the trade. Everybody thinks that this is the way the drip system is supposed to be. Well, let's look at a plant. If I'm a plant right here, and I put a bug emitter next to me, It's going to water this area and this area alone. What's happening to the root system all around the plant? It's dying because water does not go laterally in my world. Water is subject to the forces of gravity. It goes down. So these do not work. So everybody says, well, we'll just do this. We'll put 2 of them on there. Okay, yeah, okay, that's better. That's better, but you're still killing the root system on this side and that side. Yeah, okay, you're fixing it here. These do not work. This is a 1/4 inch or 11 millimeter actually line. And you can buy this, which is 1/4 inch. And it has emitters in it. This will clog, not might. It will clog. Don't buy 1/4 inch. Don't want 1/4 inch. You want 1/2 inch or 17 mil. In the industry, it's 17 mil. And I have one here somewhere. That is 17 mil. And this is it. This is a 17 mil hose in comparison to a 1/4 inch hose. You can see the difference. Commercial grade, garbage. Don't buy 1/4 inch. It's easier. If you're going to buy 1/4 inch, the best thing, my best advice is to bring it home and gaze at it lovingly and then throw it in the trash, because it's eventually going to end up there and you're going to have a lot of dead plants. This stuff does not clog, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't clog in just a minute. The other product that Hunter offers is something called EcoMat. And this is EcoMat. I'm going to pull out a little bit so you can see it. It's drip hose with cloth on it. Where would you use this? Underground cover areas. This stuff is great. I did the demonstration gardens with the city of San Jose on Guadalupe, and we did some test plots with turf using this stuff, and it will irrigate turf. It's that good. It's hard to install. You have to dig out the entire area and lay this down about 6 inches. And then you put the soil back on, and then you install your turf. But you can do this underground cover areas. Do I recommend it? Well, if you want to go through the trouble, yeah, I do. It's a good product. It's an excellent product. So do recommend it. Let's see what's in the chat here. Why wouldn't gallons per minute to each house be different? They are. That's why you're measuring it with your bucket. What else is here? Anything? Nope.
We have a question about explaining if you're taking out your lawn and putting in water conservation plans, drought tolerant plans. What are the steps to take from switching your sprinkler to drip irrigation?
That's a really good question, actually. So if you're thinking about doing that, first of all, I would recommend not taking out the lawn. I would recommend sheet mulching it. And sheet mulching is a real easy process. Well, it is and it isn't. I'm going to talk about sheet mulching. I might as well talk about it right now. Let me share screen. And we'll talk about it right now. Let's see. There we go. So sheet mulching. So this is sheet mulching. It's also called lasagna mulching. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is laying down cardboard or newspapers. I recommend cardboard. Go down and dumpster dive at the bike stores or REI. Just walk in the store, tell them you want to take all their cardboard, and they'll let you have it. And so you lay this cardboard down. And then you lay, if you're going to do a veggie bed, some compost on top of that, and then 4 to 8 inches of mulch on top of that. Don't remove the lawn. Let the soil organisms eat that. They will eat it up and they will convert that into an excellent soil bed for planting. In terms of your irrigation system, if you have an existing irrigation system in there, you're going to find where each of the irrigation heads are, and you're going to dig those out and put a plug in where the irrigation heads are. So you dig down and you're going to find a 1/2 inch fitting down at the bottom. You put a plug in there, plug that up, except for one. And you want to have one near the house that you're going to use as what is called your point of connection. At that point of connection, you're going to install your drip pressure reducer and your drip filter. And then you connect all of your drip hose to that one point of connection. You're going to use your existing valves as long as that is a good valve and it still operates well. You can use your existing valve and the piping for your sprinkler system. That's the best way to install it. Let me tell you a little story. I had a student whose name was Donna. And she lived on one of those horseshoe streets in Sunnyvale. And I won't tell you the street, but she still lives there. She came to me one day and she says, Frank, can you help me with my irrigation system? We want to sheet mulch my lawn and put in a veggie bed. Yeah, sure, Don, I'll come down. So I came down, and I bought all the parts I needed. She gave me some pictures of what was going on there. So I bought all the parts, and so we were ready to roll. When I got there, there was Donna and 3 of her neighbors, and we all went to work. By 10:30, I had converted her irrigation system to a drip system. And her 3 neighbors had laid down cardboard, 1 inch of compost, and then they started putting chip down. By the way, if you want chip, you can get free chip. And it's dropchip.com, I think, is the website. They'll give you a free chip. The arborists who are trimming trees need to pay to dump that stuff. They'll be glad to give it to you free. How much? Now they're going to give you a lot. So be prepared to get a lot of chip. But that's good because you can mulch your entire yard with that chip. And it's free. So by noon, we had everything ready to go. We had lunch. Her mother was visiting from Japan. And so we had a really nice lunch, came back out, and we started to install the veggie garden. Got the veggie garden installed, and I was in charge of getting the drip system around the plants that we were installing. And I did that. And by 2:30, we were done. So in the morning, she had a lawn. In the afternoon, she had a veggie garden, fully irrigated with drip, everything. These 3 neighbors then went to their houses and did their houses. And they got 3 or 4 of their neighbors on that same block to see what we had done. And they did it at their house. There's currently 33 houses on that block that are growing veggies. They formed a co-op. They don't go to Whole Foods to buy their veggies. They go to each other. One house is growing nothing but tomatoes. Another is citrus. Another one is shady. So they're growing greens, lettuces, apple trees, fruit trees, whatever. Each house has an assignment, and they switch those houses up every growing season. So they're not growing the same crop in the same house. 33 houses did that on that block. It was outstanding. I was so pleased to be a part of that. So when we talk about drip, I'm going to get back on track here with drip systems. We know that there are a number of products that you can get. I want to show you Hunter's. Their hose is called HDL. And I want to talk about this hose briefly. You can see the flow rates up here, 0.4 gallons per hour, 0.6 gallons per hour, 0.9 gallons per hour. Your soil is going to determine which one you use. If you're on sandy soil, you need more gallons per hour. If you're on clay, you're down at 0.4, 0.6, because you don't want that water to run off. So you're going to be installing a lower flow rate than if you were on sandy soil. How do you tell what kind of soil do you have? Oh gosh, that's easy. You get a jar. You go out in the backyard, get 2 scoops of soil, put it in the jar. Add water to that jar and a tablespoon of dishwashing detergent. Doesn't matter which one, any one will work. Shake it up. And you want to shake it up for 3 to 5 minutes, because you want that soap to, and the soap is in there as a surfactant. It makes the water wetter. And then you, after shaking it up, you set it down and you let it sit for about an hour or so, and the soil particles will begin to settle out. Sand, silt, and clay. And then you measure what you have, sand, silt, or clay, and you actually measure the entire soil that's in the jar. And let's say you have 4 inches of soil in there, and 2 inches of that soil is sand. That means you're at 50% sand. And then you might have 1 inch of silt and 1 inch of clay, which means you have 25% of clay and 25% of silt. And then you can come over here to the soil triangle. And I said 50% sand. So I just take a ruler and I lay it across here. I said 25% clay. I just take that here. And where the lines cross is where your soil lands. So let's probably going to land somewhere over in here, sandy clay loam, with that kind of a reading. So that's how you determine what your soil profile is. And then you can make a decision as to which of the drip hoses you get. Don't make the mistake of just getting one. Add a little science to this so that your plants can get the correct amount of water and that the water does not run off. The goal here is to develop a system that is going to work long-term. That's the goal. So that's why they have these different precipitation rates. And these are gallons per hour, remember. So remember when we did the bucket test, we had 8 gallons per minute. How many gallons per hour do we have? Well, we have 480, 60 times 8, 480 gallons. So if I have 0.9 gallons per hour, essentially 1 gallon per hour, and the emitter spacing is every 12 inches, because you can get the emitter spacing in different spacing. We'll talk about why in just a minute. But let's just say that every 12 inches, I have an emitter putting out about 1 gallon per hour. That means I can run 480 feet of this stuff. Everybody understand that concept? We started out with 8 gallons per minute, multiply that by 60, 480 gallons per hour. We're going to put in a 0.9 gallon per hour emitter hose. The emitters are every 12 inches. Why do they have different spacing on the emitters? You can get 6-inch, 12-inch, and 18-inch spacing on the emitters. If I'm growing greens, lettuces, and such like that, I might want to go with the 6-inch spacing. If I'm doing regular veggies, tomatoes, or if I'm doing shrubs, I might want to go with the 12-inch spacing. If I'm growing plants that are spaced quite a bit apart, I may want to go with the 18-inch spacing. Most of the time, I'm never going to use the 18-inch spacing. I'm going to stick around with the 12-inch spacing or the 6-inch spacing on my hose. That seems to work the best for a homeowner situation. So when I go into the models, I can find out that the emitter spacing, 12-inch, 18-inch, oh, they've got a 24-inch too. I would never use these. I would stick at the 12-inch. Here's your flow rates, 0.9, 0.6, and 0.4. You can get your coil lengths in 100 feet, 250, 500, and 1,000. The larger coil length you get, the cheaper it is. So you can get it in any one of these three. How easy is this stuff to install? It's really easy. You're essentially laying it out. If I've got a ground cover area, or if I have a veggie bed, I'm going to space the hoses 14 inches apart. 14 inches is your sweet number. I'm going to show you another product in just a minute, Netafim, and we space it at 14 inches also. That seems to be the best in terms of getting the water plume to what you want. You can read these specifications if you like. They have a number of tear sheets that you can read if you want. Tells you a little bit about the products. It gives you an overview of the product. Hunter makes a very good product. I like it. They have a video. In fact, there's 3 videos here if you, or one video. Yeah, one video if you want to watch it. You can get videos in the homeowner section also. There's tons of them. So video library, you just come in here. What do you want to talk about? And there's a video on it. So don't think that you're buying a product and Hunter is going to ignore you. They're not going to do that. So what product do I have? I have Netafim.
Oh, we had one question before we get into the next product. We had a question about if you're a complete beginner after kind of doing that gallon bucket and the soil test, what are kind of the next steps overall if you're really new to irrigation?
If you're really new, I would just stick with a emitter hose that is has a 12-inch spacing. That's the darling of the industry. Most people can get away with the 12-inch spacing, and you want to get the 0.9 gallons per hour hose. That's the easiest to calibrate to your irrigation controller, because for every emitter that is spaced every 12 inches, you're going to put out approximately 1 gallon of water per hour. Remember that, per hour. Which means if I roll out 100 feet, I'm putting out approximately 100 gallons per hour. That is key when you're tying that to your irrigation controller. You can calibrate it. You know how much water you're getting down there. If I water for a half hour on this 100 feet that is putting out 0.9 gallons per hour, I'm actually putting out 50 gallons. What's my crop? What kind of water amount does my crop need? If I'm doing a drought tolerant ground cover, I might only need about 15 minutes once a week on that. How do I calibrate that? Pinky test. Stick your pinky in the soil. See how deep that water is going. If you don't want to use your pinky, then go buy a soil probe. A soil probe will pull out a core. Let me do this of soil. I'll share a screen with you in just a minute. Let's see, here we go. Soil probe. There we go. So this is a soil probe. A lot of the professionals carry these. I always carried one. I can pull a core of soil out. I can see how deep my water is going, and more importantly, I can see how deep my roots are going. And so what I'm going to do is maximize this system for a really good root depth. What's a really good root depth, Frank? Well, it depends on the size of your plant. Trees can go down 40 feet. Ground covers 8 to 12 inches. So it really depends on your crop. Veggies, well, carrots, if you're doing large carrots, they'll go down 12 inches. The Danvers half longs in terms of carrots go down 6. So it's all crop dependent. The key to a soil probe is you see how far down your water is going and how far down your roots are going. If your water is going down further than your roots, back off the time on your irrigation controller. If your roots are shallow, increase the amount of time on your irrigation controller. The cool thing about drip system is, since we're dealing with gallons per hour, small increments are not going to make a big difference. Large increments will. So when you're changing your controller, think in terms of 10-minute increments. Don't think onesies and twosies, because you're not going to make a difference. Think in tens. So if I see my soil is not going, or my roots are not going deep enough and there's not water down there, I'll bump it 10 minutes. How much water is that on a 100 feet? About 10 gallons. So it's not a huge amount. You're calibrating the drip system to your controller, and that's key when you're installing these systems. Don't do the set it and forget it. Set it in April, forget it till November. That's what a lot of people do with their irrigation controllers. That is a device that needs to be calibrated. Smart controllers are dumb. You have to calibrate that controller to your landscape. Don't get a smart controller and hang it on the wall and think it's going to get up in the morning and make you coffee. It is dumb. You need to program it to fit your house. That's what makes them smart. Your programming. Garbage in, garbage out. So did that answer your question? I hope it did.
We have one follow-up. We have a question about, they're a little confused. They thought the plastic water pipes would be connected to solid supply tubes that would then connect to the emitter hoses, which were shorter. Is that incorrect?
No, you can do that. So there's 2 types of line we're talking about: emitter line and distribution line. Emitter line has emitters in it. Distribution line has no emitters in it. So your distribution line it distributes the water to the emitter line. It's that simple. So it doesn't have any holes in it. Did that answer the question?
Yes, I think you can go ahead, and I think we can save the other questions towards the end. I'll let you know if any others come up.
All right, deal. Okay, this is what Frank has at his house. I like Netafim. Netafim was developed by the Israelis to grow crop in the desert. It is an outstanding emitter line. I like it for a number of reasons. It's easy to install. So with that last question on that distribution line, the distribution line is on this edge. These lines that are going down the center of the picture on the right, these are all emitter lines. And they're emitting, which is exactly what you want them to do. These are spaced 14 inches apart. You can see the water plume coming out of this. If this is a big veggie garden, then what you're going to do is you're going to turn on your controller after you install your drip irrigation and watch it run. When these plumes of water begin to come together, like these pictures, that's when you shut this system off. And you make a note on how much time it took to get these plumes of water. That gives you a really good coverage on your Netafim system. So that's the key. Turn it on, watch it, sit out there, pour yourself a glass of iced tea or whatever your favorite beverage is, and just watch it and see what the plumes of water. Each house is going to be different because you have a different soil texture. If you live on Sand Hill Road, they call it Sand Hill Road for a reason. Sandy soil. If you live in downtown Palo Alto, it's heavy clay soil. So these plumes of water are going to be different depending on the types of soils that you have. So the Netafim system is a very good system for a number of reasons. And the big reason is this Netafim emitter. This Netafim emitter has veins on it. So when the water is running down the pipe, it hits these veins at the individual emitters and the water begins to spin. When the water begins to spin, it kicks the particulate matter that might have gotten past the filter, and you will get some, to the outside of the water plume, which is carried to the end of the emitter line. So it has a cleansing mechanism within it. There is also a filter in there, which will keep your emitters clean. And that is a beautiful thing. Because one of the worst things with drip systems is that they clog and you don't know that they've clogged until your plants start dying. That's the only way you can tell, because you're not going to walk around and look at these things, especially when the plants are grown in. So this is before, years and after of the plants on a Netafim system. If you ever go to Las Vegas and go to the Bellagio, all of the landscaping at the Bellagio is on a Netafim drip system. It's been that way for years. That system was installed when Bellagio was built. This is all on drip. All on drip. It's really flexible. It's easy to install. Don't do this. These will clog. This is 1/4 inch. You definitely do not want to do that. Do not use bug emitters. They won't give your plants what they need. You want to use inline emitter hose. And as I said, 14 inches apart. So when you buy this stuff, you can lay it out in any number of configurations. You can do this. And they're using it off a barrel. Losing my voice. You can do that. You can do this. You can do that. You can do this. You can do that. You can do this. Although don't do these sprayers. Squirrels will eat those. You can do this. You can do that. Or this. It's really easy and flexible to use. This is the way they use it on grapes. They hang it on a line above ground for their grapes. Around trees. Let me find the drawing for trees. There's a couple of ways you can do trees. Let me show you that. So everybody thinks the drip system of a tree is under the canopy of the tree. Nay, nay, nay. It goes out as much as 3 to 4 times away from the canopy of the tree. So when we're irrigating a tree, we want to do something like this. As the tree grows, we add more hose to compensate for the growth of the tree. So essentially, if I'm looking down at that tree, the tree's in the center, and I'm putting a double row of Netafim in. As the tree grows, I'm adding more Netafim. Or you could do something like this. If you've got containers, this is their new system. It's called a net bow ring. There's 8 emitters in this ring. And you can hang it in a container. You have a hose that comes up from your distribution tubing. I wouldn't do this around trees because you need more water around these trees. Here's a real simple installation. There's another one. You do not have to be fancy with this stuff. You just remember the 14-inch rule and you're going to get good coverage. There's another way to install it. Would I do it this way? No, I'm not an engineer. I'm not. I prefer a free form. This is Netafim in a agricultural setting. And I literally miles and miles of this stuff out there. So the Netafim system works really well around trees with some exceptions. It will not work around redwood trees. Redwood trees need a lot more water than that drip line can put out. It won't work around magnolias. It won't work around birch trees. You need a lot more water than what these systems can develop. So you want to, if you're going to do it around your birch trees, etc., you're going to have to hand water once a week, minimum once a week. This is a good way to install Netafim with the hose going out beyond the drip line of the trees. Essentially, this is what you want. You want that water to be outside. Roots have a charge on them, as do water. And people have said, well, I actually believe that roots can find water. Yeah, they can. They use charges to find water. If you're watering outside of this drip line, those roots will find it. They're in there. They're looking for water. They're not passive, they're active. So these drip systems work quite well around, around trees and other plants. This is a good way, not a great way, because the distance between these hoses is too far. As I said, 14 inches. This is a good way, not a great way. Here's a veggie bed. This looks about right. 6 inches off each edge, and then 14 inches between them. And you'll get some great coverage in your veggie beds if you're growing veggies. If you've got ground covers, again, 14 inches. Remember that we're dealing with gallons per hour. and that when you do gallons per hour, you need to make sure that you have a minimum amount of time to get this thing soaked. You also get fittings. I want to talk about the fittings that they give you. So these are drip fittings that you can get. Let's see if this is a better picture. Yeah, this is a better picture. So you get all kinds of cool fittings. It's all Tinker Toys or Legos. I guess you guys are into Legos. I was into Tinker Toys back then. This is a coupling, elbows, T's, crosses. This is called a Y insert. This is a different kind of T. I've never used one of these in my entire life. This fitting connects to your pressure reducer. And then you attach your drip hose to this. It happens to be a 3/4 inch. This is a 1/2 inch. Here's a turner on or offer. In my veggie beds, I have turner on or offers because I sometimes will leave the bed fallow. So I turn that one off. This is they call them sod staples or soil staples. When you buy this hose, it is tightly coiled like this. And it's a bear to wrestle. So we use these fittings, these soil staples, to hold the hose down until it loses its memory. And then it will lay down. The good news about these soil staples is that they're cheap. 1,000 for $35. And then the good news also is that these things rust, which gives your plants a nice shot of iron oxide or iron. So these are the different kinds of fittings. One of the things about these, and these are 17 mil or 1/2 inch, everybody calls it 1/2 inch or 17 mil, either way, is that when you're trying to install these on a hose, they're really hard to get onto the hose. They're compression fittings. You want them to be difficult to get on there because then they won't blow off. And so they're going to be hard to get on, especially if you don't have good hand strength. Couple of tips. Take a bucket of hot water out there, dip your hose in the hot water, and you can get these fittings on that way. The other way, and this is one of my students taught me this way. Her name is Katie. And Katie was managing my garden up at Foothill College. So I don't know if you guys know, I'm the director of the horticulture program at Foothill College. If you want more information about plants and a lot of this stuff, take some classes. We have a lot of people who are homeowners come to our classes, sign up and take classes. We do teach irrigation up there. We teach plants, we teach veggies, we teach integrated pest management. We have a full retinue of classes, and they're outstanding. I have some outstanding instructors up there, and they know what they're talking about. Most of them are in the industry, have been working in the industry for a long time. We teach design also. So a full retinue of classes that you can take up at Foothill. Anyway, Katie, we have a 1/3 of an acre of a permaculture garden. And we were redoing the irrigation system, and Katie did the design on it using Netafim. We have 9 separate hydrozones, depending on what we're growing. So in one area, we have fruit trees. In another area, we have our tomatoes. In another area, we have our berry crops, others citrus. Each one of those takes a different amount of water. So Katie designed the system using a Netafim system to have a certain configuration. And so we were using our classes to install this stuff. She was the boss. And the dean happened to say he was going to come by. He's my boss. he said he's going to come by, needed to talk to me about some stuff. And I said, yeah, okay. Up there working, I told him, meet me in permaculture. He knows where permaculture is. He's a vegetarian. He comes through and he grazes on the vegetables we grow up there. So I look over on the table where Katie had all of her fittings, and I see 2 tubes of KY jelly. Katie, what's the deal here? The dean's coming by. Why do we have 2 tubes of KY jelly on the table? She says, let me show you. She took a dab of KY jelly, put it on this fitting, and it slipped right into the hose. No problem. So KY jelly is water soluble. The first time you turn the water system on, that stuff disappears, but it makes it so easy to put drip hose on these fittings. Couldn't believe it. In my industry, you learn something new every day. I was blown away by this. Katie also works for a CSA over in Half Moon Bay, and she learned it from them. And so she taught me, and obviously everyone else that was working there, how to get these fittings on without too much of a problem. So these fittings are Tinker toys. Some of them you're never going to use. Have I ever used a cross? Never. Oops, where'd it go? I've never used a cross. I do use couplings. I do use tees. I do use elbows. You can buy these in bags of 25, or you can buy individual pieces. Obviously, the bags of 25 are cheaper. If you're going to do a fairly big system, I recommend that. You definitely want a bag of couplings, a bag of L's, a bag of T's. You're probably going to buy these individually, because how many pressure reducers do you have? I have 7 drip systems at my house, so I bought 7 of these. I don't need 25 of them. How many turner honor offers do I have? I have a bunch. I went a little nuts on the turner honor offers in my veggie beds, but I do use them, so I'm justified that way. These are tech locks. You can also get a tech lock with Netafim. Where'd it go? This is a much stronger fitting. If you're using a 40 PSI pressure reducer, you might need a tech lock to hold your lines together. But for the most part, these kinds of compression fittings will work. Well, Amazon is selling them. Who knew? What doesn't Amazon sell? Would I buy them at Amazon? Probably not. I like to go down to the irrigation stores. And so will you. Once you go in and meet some of the guys in there, they're great guys. They're going to help you. You want to form a relationship with these guys because they're the experts. So go to the irrigation store. We don't need to send Bezos into space unless he's going to stay there. So buy your stuff local at the irrigation stores. They appreciate your business. So the Netafim system, in my opinion, is the better of the systems over Hunter. I'm not downplaying Hunter, because Hunter makes a very good micro irrigation system. Price-wise, about the same. You get fittings with the Hunter system also. They're called PLDs. They're 17 mil. They'll work interchangeably with the Netafim system. These are commercial grade, by the way. Both of them are. And they are a very good product. One of the things I want to talk about with the Netafim emitters is that you can get, yeah, it's this one. This is the one I want. You can get a Netafim emitter, and I may not be able to find it, that has a copper, a piece of copper in it. And I don't see it here. It's called, yeah, here it is. Cupron. It has a copper oxide in it. Roots will not grow into this. I have to say that I have had my Netafim system in the ground for a long time, and I have never had a root intrude in my Netafim system. I do not have the copper in it. I bought the regular one. I figured, well, what the heck, I'm a contractor. If I have a problem with this stuff, I can change it out rather quickly. So I did not buy the one with the copper oxide in it, but you can get it if you're planting plants that have an aggressive root system. You may want to invest in it. I wouldn't, but you might want to. But this system is a very good system. There are a lot of different videos on YouTube that you can watch. If we're in landscape and turf, which we are, then they have a website that's dedicated to you. Here's the Cupron copper stripe Netafim. Good stuff. Would I use it? Probably not. All this is on drip. All of these flowers, these ornamental cabbages, they're all on drip. Everything you see in this planter bed is all on drip. They have what's called a tech line calculator. If you're new to the system, I've never used it. I've played with it just so that I could see how it works. It works fairly well. They have an online catalog that you can download if you like. It's very well written, and it has a lot of information in it. Sustainability means profitability. I started this out asking you, how many times do you want to install your drip system? Every one of you said, I just want to install it once. Netafim is LEEDs certified. So you can get the LEEDs statement here. How much water will I actually save when I install a drip system? Oh gosh, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked me that, Frank. Well, Frank, you'll save anywhere from 39 to 79% over a spray irrigation system when you install drip. 39 to 79% of what you're applying with a spray system. That's pretty good. In fact, it's outstanding. That's why a number of my things at my house is on drip. I'm supposed to be a shining example of sustainability. Those of you who know my reputation know that I teach sustainable systems up at Foothill College. I teach sustainable veggie growing, how to grow veggies without chemicals and minimum amounts of inputs. We do not want to have a $40 tomato. So I want to make sure that the inputs, including water, are at a minimum. So that's why I have Netafim at my house. Do we have any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation, Frank. That was awesome. Yes, we do have
Welcome.
some we do have some questions for you. The first one is, can we install it ourselves, or is it best to hire out?
No, you can install it yourself. Trust me. Trust me. You can do this. Watch some videos, YouTube videos. Go to the Netafim website and look at their videos and call them on the phone. Hi, I'm a newbie. Can you help me here? Go down to site one. Mike is the manager there. Kirk is his assistant. Go down there when the contractors are in there and just tell them, I'm a newbie. Help me here. What do I need? How do I do this? And they'll show you how to do that. If you have questions, you can always email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. And I will respond to you. The last seminar I did, I got 11 inquiries from different people. I forgot my own email. That's because I don't email myself much. Does this go to everybody? Okay, there we go. So there's my email. email me and I will answer your questions.
Great.
And that is saying that with a little grain of salt. There's a fine line between stalking Frank and asking questions. Fine line. And you'll know when you've crossed that line when I shoot you an email saying that you're getting close to consultation rates. Okay.
Great. Thank you for that. Our next question is, I've tried to put drip irrigation by myself. Seems poking holes is a very difficult task. What is the tip to make it easier, to make an easier way of inserting emitters and attaching 1/4 to 1/2 inch pipe?
Well, don't use that. You want inline emitters. So the Netafim system is inline emitters. You don't have to poke holes in it. They're built into the pipe itself. You just lay it out. Yeah, poking holes and using those bug emitters is old technology. Come into the what century are we in? 21st or 22nd? I don't remember. I get those confused for some reason. So come into the new century and use inline emitter. That's the state of the art stuff right now. It's cheaper long run.
Cool. Thank you. And then the next question is, what type of connectors do you use from the e-supply to the emitter hose?
17 mil, the same kind of connectors I showed you. They're called 17 mil connectors. So, and a lot of the professionals don't even use distribution tubing. They just lay the hose out with emitter lines in them, with the idea that the roots are going to find that water and so they water that area also. Remember, we're dealing with gallons per hour in comparison to gallons per minute on a spray system. So if you don't use that distribution tubing, it's not a mortal sin. You don't have to hit confession on Saturday night because of that.
Great. Good stuff.
Yeah.
The next question is, does the pressure differ between the start and end of the emitter system?
Yeah, it does, but it's not much. You might lose a couple of PSI in there, but it's not going to make a difference because you're dropping that pressure down. Granted, if you're doing a mile of hose, yeah, you're going to have issues, but on a normal homeowner system, you're not even going to notice the drop.
Great. The next question is, with drip irrigation on trees, is it a concern that the irrigation will promote shallow root growth?
Boy, that's a difficult one to answer. The short answer is no, it will actually promote deep rooting. So the issue with trees is that you want to deep water a tree, whether you're doing drip or whether you're just putting a hose on the trees. So trees respond to deep watering. So for example, if I have, I don't know, citrus, lemon tree, and I don't have a drip system or any other system, I'm just going to go out there and water it with a hose. I'll put a hose on a slow trickle for a good hour on a weekend. And don't forget to set your oven timer or your fancy Apple Watch, which I happen to have one now, for 1 hour so you don't leave the thing on all day long. So the deep watering is promoted by a drip system. The key with that, answering that question, is that the only thing that is on that drip system are the trees, or you're putting more rings around that tree to make sure that you're getting good amount of water down there. So if I'm growing tomatoes and I have trees on that same line, the tomatoes are not going to take the same amount of water as my trees. And that's called hydrozoning. Based on the amount of water that a specific plant needs, you're developing your hydrozones with that concept in mind.
super interesting. I might use some of this for my future garden. So thank
I hope
you.
so.
Yeah. The next question is, when would we use a dripper? Also, how do rainboard valves compare to with that of a hunter?
Rainburn valves are good valves. As long as you're getting them at the commercial stores, don't get them at big box, because Rainbird does make a product for big box. It's not a commercial standard. They're trying to get the homeowner market. So you want to go to the commercial where the contractors go to get the Rainbird valves that are sold there. Much better valve. There's a diaphragm in that valve that will break down quicker if you get it at big box in comparison to the commercial brand. And there was another part of that question that I forgot. What was it?
How would we use a dripper? Or sorry, when would we use a dripper?
I don't use them. I don't use the bug drippers at all. When I first did my system way back when, and that was the only technology available, I used bugs, but I don't use it anymore. They just aren't what I just don't like them. They clog. That 1/4-inch tubing is the bugaboo there. It just fills up with particulate matter and clogs. The 1/2-inch or 17 mil won't clog.
Good to know. The next question says, good information. Am I missing anything here to recap a basic system? Control valve, distribution line, emitter hose with holes, apart 12 inches and laid 14 inches apart from each other with various couplings.
Yeah, 12 to 14 inches apart. Yeah, I think you've got it all. I mean, it's really simple stuff. Don't overthink the system. It's really, really simple. You have the components, the valve, pressure reducer, filter, the hoses, the distribution tubing emitter line. And if you get the fittings, one of the fittings that I didn't mention is something called a figure 8. Let me show you what that looks like, just so that you know what that looks like. There we go. I did see figure 8s in here somewhere. Yeah, this is a figure 8. So essentially what you're doing is bending the hose at the end point and slipping this on to crimp the hose off. So you want to buy that instead of a expensive what are the end cap, they call it, end fitting. These are easier to use and cheaper, way cheaper. I've never had one of these break on me. So yeah, so once you got the basic parts down and the basic components down, it's real simple to run. I mean, you're going to be astounded how easy this stuff is. And it blows people away once they do a system, because they wonder why contractors are charging so damn much money. That's because we like expensive trucks is the reason.
Nice. Great. So the next question is, you mentioned separating trees in zones by water needs. Could we use multiple rounds of emitter hoses around plants when needed to adjust water supply?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. So you can go to a website called WOCLS, the Water Use Classification of Landscape Species, WOCLS. I'll put it in the chat. To figure out water needs of plants. That's a pretty good website.
Great. Thank you. And then the next question is, I have 15 rows of old style dripping system. Can I use mixed use current with the Netafim irrigation? What I'm asking is it possible to do slow migration to Netafim from my old ones?
Yeah, you can. As that old system breaks down, then just replace it with Netafim. If you're going to just add some Netafim in now, it's not going to hurt. You're going to get much better coverage and long-term water savings with an entire Netafim system. But, you know, I used my old system for a time mixed with Netafim when I did one of my systems out here. And as it broke and clogged, I just replaced it with Netafim. So yeah, you could get away with that.
Nice. Good to know. This is all really good stuff. Those are all the questions I see at the moment, but oh, here's one that just came up. I missed the location where he suggested to get Netafim and related products. Would you mind repeating that information, please?
Where to get it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can go to site one. Let's see if I still have it up. If not, I'll put it in the. So site one, landscape supply, there's one in San Carlos. There's two in San Jose. They're over in, I think, Hayward. They're in Dublin. They're all over the place. Site one is really great. I like these guys. And as I said, they're lady friendly. So if you're a lady, you can go into their stores. They have a very good supply of merchandise and their prices are reasonable. Remember, if you talk like a homeowner, they're going to charge you homeowner prices. If you talk like a contractor, they're going to give you discounts on the product. So, you know, if you go in there, throw a couple of swear words in there and they'll think you're a contractor.
Great. Good advice.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Josh, we got out a minute early.
I do see one more question. Does each valve connect to a pressure reducer and filter, or does the supply line have the pressure reducer and filter before the valve manifolds?
Run that by me again, I'm confused.
Does each valve connect to a pressure reducer and filter?
Yes, each valve.
I think
Yeah.
that was the clarification.
Yeah, each valve has to have its own pressure reducer and filter.
Great. I don't see any other questions, but if you do want to raise your hand to ask Frank a question directly, we do have a couple minutes, or you can put them in the Q&A. We do have a question. If I want to hire a person as knowledgeable as you are, how do I find one?
Oh, goodness. Well, an easy way to do that is go to clca.org. That is the California Landscape Contractors Association. You can search specifically for contractors that do drip. You can also find contractors. Well, you guys don't recommend contractors anymore, do you?
Valley Water does have a list of landscape contractors that have worked on past landscape conversions of lawns to drought tolerant plants. So we can send out that link of contractors that have worked with rebate applicants.
Yep. Yeah, and if they're associated with Valley Water, they're usually really good at what they do. Valley Water is a good organization. A lot of my students work there, so I know. Huh. They had a great teacher at one time. Awful quiet out there.
Yeah, well, it looks like those are the questions that we have tonight. If you'd like to reach out to Frank, his email is in the chat. One person said we're laughing in real life. You're the best. Great.
Yeah, well, you know, humor gets us through the days, especially during these last 20 months when I was teaching horticulture with a TV. God, that was insane. It's just insane.
I can imagine.
Oh, boy.
Hopefully it'll be less soon.
Well, I'm back face to face, so I'm just thrilled.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'll sign autographs later. Send you
Thank
an
you.
email.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Hope to see
Yeah.
you at future webinars.
Yeah, thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye.
Tip your waitresses. They'll be here all week.